Cool, I believe it's now recording. Excellent. Hi everyone, my name is Bríd. I'm auditor of the HIST and welcome to this evening's debate. It is our reading week debate, so we're changing things up. It's a Liferaft debate. So each speaker is basically defending their chosen library for the chance to basically survive in a life raft, I guess. Very exciting stuff, very topical because obviously so many of us are spending all our days in the library. Actually, I have not been in the library for 8 months, which is kind of horrible, but I'm still going to be making a speech tonight. So this is a comedy debate, but assumedly there will be some very strong feelings because I know my friends and there will definitely be strong feelings. But we have chamber debates every single week at 7:30 or maybe 4 minutes past 7:30 every Wednesday night. Next week's debate is our Rainbow Week debate, so that should be really exciting. So yeah, this evening is split into 2 parts, private and public business. So private business is basically when we go through the inner workings of the society. It can be interactive, you can ask us questions, it should be good fun. And then public business is the actual debate of the, is actually the debating part. But first and foremost, I just want to state that obviously this is over Zoom, so we have private messaging enabled, but if anyone experiences any unsolicited private contact or harassment during the debate, feel free to contact myself or Laura Crean, our equity officer, and we can sort out the situation. Cool, without further ado, I'd now like to call upon Catherine O'Brien to chair the private business meeting.
Hi. Tonight, I call this House to order and call upon the Record Secretary to read the minutes of the last private business meeting.
The last private business meeting took place on the 4th of November 2020 with Bríd O'Donnell in the chair. There were no fines, no reports to be read, no motions on notice, and no motions not on notice.
So are there any objections to the signing of these minutes? Well, with that, I'll sign these minutes and I cede the floor back to the auditor.
Amazing. So this is a part whereby it's a bit like tradition where I ask a bunch of the officers questions. And this evening, because it's reading week, we have a special thing that we're doing. Should be very exciting. But yeah, without further ado, Madam Treasurer, are there any fines?
So I have spent the last number of weeks not only saying there are no fines, but also explaining that we don't in fact fine people and it's merely a sort of procedural relic in the HIST. However, this week, at Bríd's behest, there is in fact a fine of sorts. So the HIST are running a campaign for Movember, which is obviously a really great initiative for men's health. And as part of this, Bríd had set herself particular cycling targets. I can't remember the exact distance, but it is my understanding that she did not meet her targets. And as such, she has asked me to fine her a donation amount of her choice to the HIST's Movember campaign. So again, to reiterate, we do not in fact fine people, but in this case, I have been asked by Bríd to publicly state that she did not meet her Movember cycling targets and therefore must donate an amount of her choice to the HIST Movember campaign in lieu of a fine.
Just to also fill out just any context, I have no willpower. So I need like actual external punishment in order to achieve my goals. So that I'm using the HIST and its fining system as a way to do that. But I'm donating right now, donating 25 euros to our Movember campaign. And I urge you all to do the same. You can find our donation link in our link tree and it's on our Facebook page and stuff like that. I'm cycling 60 kilometers, but we have Oliver and Matthew who are growing their mustaches, and you can probably see Oliver's blonde, bleached mustache there. They've also have a hilarious video out of them bleaching their mustaches. But yeah, we're doing this throughout the month. We're competing with other societies, so it should be really good fun. But yeah, so without further ado, then moving on to Madam Librarian. Could you open question time?
Yeah, the time for questions is now open.
Madam Librarian, I have a question for you, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Given the night that's in it and the motion that we're debating tonight, it seems rude not to ask you, what is your favourite library?
I mean, I think I have to say the Hist Library. I think it would be pretty bad if I didn't. Which, for anyone who doesn't know, yes, the Hist does actually have a library. Most of it is up in resource, but we also have some books in the committee room in the GMB. If I wasn't going to pick the Hist Library for some strange reason, it would probably be the Lecky. But I think the Hist Library is the only answer here.
Excellent. That was a very good question. Is there any other questions? There being none, Madam Librarian?
The time for questions is now closed.
Excellent. Now I'd like to call upon the Madam Pro Records Secretary. Are there any reports to be read?
There are no reports to be read.
Are there any motions on notice?
There are no motions on notice.
Are there any motions not on notice?
There are no motions not on notice.
Fantastic. And finally, because obviously we like to repeat ourselves, Madam Treasurer, are there any fines?
In a shocking turn of events between now and the first time you asked me that question, no one has managed to accrue any fines, mostly because we don't fine people, therefore there are no fines.
Excellent. If I look distracted, it's because I'm currently trying to donate on my phone. But fantastic. I'd like to cede the floor back to the chair, Catherine. Catherine?
Apologies, I have myself muted and now upside down. Okay. I'd like to call this house adjourned. This meeting adjourned. Yes.
Yes. That's brilliant. And now I'll move on to public business, which is the actual debating part. So I'd like to call upon Ellen O'Flaherty to chair public business.
I call this house to order and call upon the Records Secretary to read the minutes of the last public business meeting.
Hi again. First and foremost, apologies for this really weird light right above my head. I don't know why it does that, but it does. And without it, I can't see anything. So apologies. Secondly, I feel like when you think of the Hist, comedy isn't necessarily like the first thing that comes to your mind. So, you know, events like this, one of our more comedic debates, are kind of important because it shows that we do actually have a lighthearted side, because I promise we do, it's true. And so the record secretary, as the person who gives the minutes, obviously plays a very important role, because minutes are always meant to be comedic, usually regardless of the topic, the public business ones at least. And it kind of sets the scene for the comedy debate, you know? But when I originally joined the Rec Sec department, I was not intending on having to do minutes. I was joining it solely to help with maidens and like fresher engagement. And I was like, Sean and Matthew can do the minutes. Like, that's fine. They both seem eager to do it. Like, I'll be fine. So you can imagine my absolute joy when at 4 o'clock this afternoon, the one and only Matthew Charlton texts me saying, oh, I was meant to fill in for Sean, but I can't today, which means not only do you have to do the minutes, you have to do the minutes for the Hist, like one of the Hist only comedy debates. And I was like, well, this is great. Because, you know, I'm not funny. And I know that I feel like if you listen to any minutes, a lot of people have a tendency to say that and they use it as like a comedic joke. It's true for me. You can ask any of my friends. Like, I'm very painfully unfunny. My very limited sense of humor is relegated to like either self-deprecation or very embarrassing like personal stories from when I was younger that I don't even remember, but they're funny. Like, for example, my first word ever as a baby was a curse word in Spanish. And I'm pretty sure I'm not allowed to say it, and I don't want to get the Hist in trouble, but anyone with a remote understanding of the Spanish language can probably very easily guess what word it was. And, you know, obviously I don't remember that story, but my parents do, and they love to recount it over and over to me because it was definitely one of their proud parent moments of many throughout my childhood. And yeah, and that's one of the only funny stories I have, because as I grew up and matured, I realized I wasn't really that funny. And now that I've rambled for what I think is an acceptable amount of time, I leave with the closing thought that, again, I have like no dignity and no shame. So if you want to come up to me after the debate or like ever and just ask any embarrassing story about myself, because there are plenty, I will happily share them and like completely embarrass myself. I know I'm not the easiest person to laugh with. I've been told my laugh sounds like a dying hyena, and someone else told me that I sound like a dying whale when I laugh. But either way, I don't think being compared to a dying animal when you laugh is a good idea, regardless of the animal that you're being compared to. So since I can't have you laugh with me, the least I can do is offer you something to laugh at me with. I would also like to say that the quality of these minutes is not at all indicative of the quality of the speeches you're about to hear. I urge you to stick around because I promise there are actually funny speakers who voluntarily chose to speak at tonight's debate, although I will be silently judging anyone who says anything other than the Ussher. Thank you.
Woo! Ellen? I think, Ellen, I think it goes back to the chair, if that's okay.
Okay, sorry, it's just I was a bit put off by the fact that I'm supposed to be signing something.
Oh,
So,
yeah, no worries. So just pretend to sign.
Okay,
Doesn't really
okay. I
matter.
wasn't supposed to be taking minutes there because I got the gist of that. Was that Erin thinks she's not funny.
No, you just have to ask if there's any objections, which
Okay.
I assume there won't be.
Are there any objections to my signing these minutes as a true and accurate account of the last public business meeting? No, don't think so. Then I should duly sign.
Excellent.
I should now like to call upon the auditor to introduce the invited guests to the House.
Yeah, excellent. So for this reading week debate, we're delighted to have Ellen O'Flaherty here. So Ellen is an assistant librarian and archivist at the Library of Trinity College Dublin. As an archivist, she works with the manuscripts and archives department and the college archives. Ellen oversaw and actually coordinated the curation of the HIST archives exhibition, which was displayed in the Long Room expedition as part of HIST 50. It was a really fantastic expedition, and you can actually still see it online. It's all on our website, but I'll be sure to post a link into the chat as well. It's a really fantastic expedition showing like the art, like showing archives from across 250 years, and the archives are honestly brilliant. So if you want a good laugh and to learn something, I definitely recommend it. But yeah, I also will cover the standing orders for this evening. So speeches will be 7 minutes in length, while with the first and last minute protected. What are they protected from? It's protected from POIs, or points of information. So you may offer a point of information after the first minute, and then you cannot offer any points of a minute during the last minute. So what are points of information? They're basically the opportunity for you to ask the speaker a question. It can be a point of clarification, or it can be you challenging them, or it can be you making like a funny joke, whatever. It's reading week, you can do whatever you want. To offer a POI, what you can do is you can offer it written in the chat function, or else you can unmute yourself and ask POI or point of information, or on that point, or something like that. You can only ask your full POI once the speaker has actually accepted that POI. So yes, that's how we make POIs on Zoom. Please engage as much as you want with this debate. Then the vote will be determined by a Zoom poll at the end of the debate. And then we also have order returns. So order returns are like a short anonymous form that you fill out, and it's basically rating each speaker. This is really important because at the end of the year, we actually award prizes to the best speakers, and they're actually monetary prizes. So please do fill them out. They're really quick, really simple, and the form will be posted into the chat as well. Finally, we will have floor speeches this evening because I expect everyone to have their own opinion on the libraries of Trinity College. So floor speeches are impromptu 4-minute speeches by members of the audience. So we're like very open to like people debating other libraries in college, because I know we're only actually covering 4 of them. There's plenty of others. But if you are interested in making a floor speech, please message me over Zoom. My name again is Bríd. So yeah, hopefully you can see me in the message chat. And without further ado, I'd like to cede the floor back to the chair. You're on mute. Oh, I think that means like everyone has to take a drink or something. That's definitely part of our bingo.
Oh, the question before the House this evening is, this House disagrees with your choice of library, and I should now like to call upon Ellen McHugh to propose the motion to the House.
Woo! My name is Ellen, and I have a problem. Actually, I have many problems, all probably related to broader self-esteem issues, but the one problem that I really want to talk about right now is that I have an obsession with dark academia, and it's kind of destroying me. Kind of so much so that I kind of have a copy of The Secret History just next to me at all times. I wore a dress today because I thought it looked aesthetic, even though it was spilling rain. And you know, I think it can be said that I'm kind of living for the aesthetic at the minute. But I can see what you're thinking. Oh, now, Ellen, you're just going to base your entire speech about this because obviously the Ussher is the most beautiful library in college. And, you know, obviously you're going to base your speech merging your obsession with dark academia and your obsession with the Ussher. Which, like, it's fairer than that. But that's not what I'm going to base my case on. Because, you know, it's debating. I'm going to give you some cold, hard facts about why the Ussher is objectively the best library and why it should be saved. Because remember, this is a Liferaft debate. We're talking about which library do you want to save to rebuild society in a post-apocalyptic world, which sounds really scarily relevant right now. And I'm going to unequivocally prove that this should be the Ussher. But first, I realise that there are many people here tonight that have never set foot in one of the libraries in college. I also realise that we're joined by first years who definitely haven't set foot in one of the libraries in Trinity College. So I'm going to share my screen because I have compiled a handy little introduction to the libraries of the College of the Holy and Undivided Trinity of Queen Elizabeth near Dublin. And this is a completely unbiased guide. So we start off with the Lecky. Oh, the Lecky, the most forgettable of libraries. I think the main point about the Lecky that I want to stress is its complete lack of any real discernible characteristics. It kind of just exists, it's just there. There's not a whole lot going for it. It's kind of like a thoroughfare. You walk through it to get somewhere else. You're either going to the Ussher or to the arts block. There's also these green seats there that have been worn to bits, tourists looking in at you while you work. I just don't get that. I don't know why you would decide, oh yes, I'm going to try and concentrate, going to sit down, try and concentrate, while you literally have American tourists just walking and just like staring in, just looking at you, seeing students and work in the real world. And also books just are never where they're meant to be there. Like I have to go in there for my degree because I do that sometimes. And I just go up to a shelf expecting the book to be there and it's never there. And you don't get that in other libraries. And look, I'm not that experienced with the Lecky. I only really worked there temporarily for like a month or so because I couldn't face the Ussher after stalls and because the guy I liked used to study there. And let's face it, we all make mistakes because of stupid crushes that we have. But then we learn from that and move on. I've also included a nice little quote from Nietzsche here, which I actually can't see because of where the street is. Ah, yes, to the mediocre, mediocrity is a form of happiness. And I really do think that the Lecky is the most mediocre library in existence. And we're just going to move on from that. Now we get to the Berkeley. And yes, I did say Berkeley and not Berkeley because it is named after the Irish philosopher George Berkeley. But it has been invaded by Americans like Trinity has, and now we have Americanized it from Berkeley to Berkeley. And I think it is very telling that even the people who propose to love it call it the Berkeley. If you love it, please call it by its right name. But anyway, I think the most notable thing about the Berkeley is that it is a fiery pit of hell. Like, it's so hot in there. I don't know how anybody gets anything done. Like, I walked up there one day and I immediately broke out into a sweat. And I don't know why on earth you would be able to be productive in an area where firstly you have law students staring at you being employable. And then you're just like sweating. I don't understand how anybody could actually work. I just don't get it. Also, I'm really not a fan of brutalist architecture. And I know some people are like, oh, it's those concrete. Oh, it's sexy and kind of like dangerous. And oh, I just love it. No, it's just awful. Like, there's nothing nice about it. It's just cold concrete mixed with warm air. And this just, yeah, nothing really that good about it. I also just think that everything in the Berkeley is just derivative of something else. Like, what is law except a sort of crossover episode between politics and philosophy? And like, I'm not really exactly sure what points I'm making here, but we all know that things that are derivative don't win debates. And if you didn't know that, go to debate training. It's super fun and you will learn new things. Now, from the entirety of the DC department and anyone involved in competitive debating, please vote for Team Ussher because of in gratitude for that flood. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And finally, not even finally, I forgot completely that I was going to talk about the Hamilton because everybody forgets about the Hamilton. I've never been there. I'm assuming that people just sit there to do maths and listen to musical soundtracks. I don't know, like, I'm an art student. It's just really far away. Like, I don't know why anybody would go to it unless they had to, you know, like, I don't think it's worth walking across campus in the spilling rain to get to the Hamilton Library. Yeah, anyway, Bríd might be able to convince you. I doubt it because, yeah, I just don't understand why it would be able to be the best one to pick to survive. Moving on, finally, we got to the Ussher. Sorry, really, time to relax because the Ussher is probably the most beautiful place in Trinity, I would argue. It's just so aesthetic, carpet floors, views of the cricket pitch, and the philosophy books, they're quite cool. And there was also a guy who looked like Jason Momoa there last year. I just found that enjoyable. And it's just a nice little thing to have in the library. But I have at this point highlighted here. I think this is what I want to concentrate on. The fact that it has such a wide variety of students in there, because people are like attracted to its beauty. And the Ussher is home to students from all over campus, not just people like me who studied philosophy for a year and now cling to Ussher 4 in a desperate attempt to like hold on to the superiority complex that gave them. It's not uncommon to see somebody reading Nietzsche while the person next to them draws diagrams of human anatomy. And the Ussher, I think, is one of the only places on campus that bridges the arts block and science divide. I think the other place is the PAV, but like that won't be open for another 50 years, so we'll have to like hold off hope on that. The Ussher represents like a meeting of minds, of disciplines, and it's also really great if you want to rebuild a society. In society, we need people who understand different areas. Can't just leave it at one specialist area. And we've seen that from COVID-19. You can't just leave it to one specific group. You need to take loads of different factors into account. We have the financial crash to give us a pretty good picture of a world just run by economists. And I shudder to think of a world just run by law students. But I'm just going to go back to like the cold, hard facts thing, because I lied about that. Aesthetics are important. Because building a new world and a new society shouldn't just be based on logic and facts. It should also be based on creativity, on imagination, and yeah, on beauty. The aesthetically pleasing nature of the Ussher shouldn't be seen as a reason to mock it or lower it in your estimation, because society would be a lot worse off without it if it just focused on the practicalities. The Ussher to me represents that knowledge and learning need not be void of beauty. In fact, the best things often happen when all of these things come together. When we look at the societies and civilizations of the past, we look with wonder at their beauty, their buildings, their statues, their poetry. The Ussher Library has collected this beauty. We find it on every page of every book. It houses language and literature and philosophy, knowledge of ancient civilizations, and theories of the future. If we want to build a new society, these seem like pretty good places to start. Vote Team Ussher. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ellen, for that speech. I now call upon Catherine O'Brien to defend or put her thoughts forward on the Berkeley.
Oh, sorry, that's my laptop. Just okay. So it's been a long time since I've spoken at a debate here. It's actually been longer since I've spoken at a debate than since I last set foot in the library. I suppose like part of that is, 2020, which is a shameful thing to say. But like I said, it's mostly due to the fact that we're stuck in a pandemic. I was stuck for 6 months in Meath, and the thought of trying to study without a cup of coffee is kind of torturous. So I've stayed at home and I'm trying to work from there. And like, okay, I do have many fond, I guess is a way of putting it, memories of my days in the library and cramming for exams, because I've just been like trying to focus on that and get some work done. And there's one library that's close to my heart, and that's the Berkeley. It's a brutalist utopia in Trinity. And Ellen talked a bit about like aesthetics and how the Ussher is the most beautiful, but I think a strong case can be made for why the Berkeley is the most beautiful library in Trinity, and easily defeats both the Lecky and even the Ussher. And it's quite literally the only place you can study in Trinity. And as for the Hamilton, because I did not forget about that, it's so confusing how to figure out how to get into it. I don't know why I would bother try going in. I'm sorry, STEM students, but I mean, plenty of you to be studying in the Ussher as well. I'll get onto that later, my issues with that. And that's why I choose the Berkeley over the Ussher any day. But you can't miss the entrance to the Berkeley because there's a massive big gold ball outside it, and like you'll probably accidentally wander up into the Berkeley by accident at some stage. It has happened to me. Anyway, reason number one as to why it's the best. It's actually beautiful. It's built with function in mind. It's minimalist at its very core. Monochromatic colors, wood, like behind me. Look at the beauty of that. It's so simple. It's intensely functional. Well, like it's like the oldest student library, the one point in making. It's like it's a celebration for it recently. You have those little signs which you say tell you to be quiet on like the tiles. And I took a photo of them and whacked it up on Instagram, and it looks kind of cool. Like it's pretty aesthetic, and normal people is filmed there, which I think is also proof that it is a pretty library. Like there's the scene of Conal Waldron studying in the library, and honestly, it just wouldn't have been the same if it was like filmed in the Ussher. I just think the Berkeley has some kind of character and something which is so like it's just a student building, and you can tell it is. So yeah, when I looked at Berkeley, I got loads of beautiful photos like the one behind me, but like focusing on the architecture, and I think there's a few of those for like the Ussher as well. But I mean, what about the Lecky and the Hamilton? Hardly. Yes, Ellen, you want to give me a POI?
Yeah, just to go back to the Conal Waldron thing. Wasn't the point of normal people was to show how miserable Conal Waldron was in Trinity? And I think sitting him on the Berkeley, on a desk in the Berkeley does a pretty good job of that.
But it also shows, it shows in studying, it shows like how functional the Berkeley is. You're able to study in it. And like, yeah, I don't know. I think it just makes it's just distinctive. As well as that, the desks are placed in a normal pattern in the Berkeley. This really annoys me about the Ussher. They're all over the place. Like they're sticking out at random angles, and like it just irritates me. But in the Berkeley, they're kind of like, they're structured and they're ordered, and also you have like the bookcases separating you from the crowds of people walking in and out. Unlike in the Lecky, where it's literally like a motorway, because you're sitting there and all you can hear are people like walking by you and having a chat with friends, because nobody seems to care about being quiet in the Lecky. So you have something in between to stop you from getting distracted, which is why I think it's the best one for being focused. But anyway, my next point is how it's less stressful than the Ussher. And this kind of goes into what Ellen was saying about how, like, oh, the Ussher for all the other faculties in the college, where we have STEM students as well, studying as well as art students. As an English student, I find this very stressful. I go on to the first floor of the Ussher and it is packed. And I know that half those people are not English students, because I know that there's about 2 people in my course who set foot in the library like regularly, and the rest of us go there about once a year. I know, because I'm sorry, we are terrible at studying. So even when I do study, I don't go to the books on the first floor of the Ussher and bring them back down. And granted, it's not a 24-hour library like the Ussher, but at least there isn't the same savagery to get a seat in the Berkeley as there is for the Ussher during study time, because my books to try and motivate myself minutes beforehand. It is literally like a war zone to try get a seat in the Ussher during study time. So how is that better? But when you can stroll into the Berkeley at 2 p.m. because you've only gone up at 12, maybe you're like a bit hungover, and you still get a fairly good spot on the second floor, and it's cozy and it's warm, and you're still floor. And nobody leaves stuff in the morning. Another thing is it's cozy, it's environment to study in. And the final thing, which I have to make kind of quickly, is there's pigeon study. You can listen to the soothing sounds of pigeons cooing, and well, you're trying to read some article and being bored to death, or maybe you're not, because maybe you enjoy whatever you study. I do, but you get some company and you get to not be far from nature. I don't see why there is a problem with pigeons being in the library. They are friends. So I think we should live for the brutalist aesthetic of the Berkeley, of how it is like just less stressful than the Ussher, how it's quieter than the Lecky, and how you can actually find it, unlike the Hamilton. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. We now have, or I now call upon Maeve Hurley to argue on behalf of the Lecky.
And just before Maeve speaks, I just want to draw everyone's attention to the order turns. So I just posted the link to the form in the chat. Please fill it out. It's really important to us that we have a record of all the people and how they performed and what you thought of them. And this is an excellent way for you to judge and to downvote people who have terrible library choices. No, please do it based on their actual speech and their quality of their speech. So yeah, please fill out that form. It would mean the world to the CoreSec department who have organized this debate.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Cool. So first of all, how hot do I look right now? Thank you, Bríd. I can only see Bríd, but Bríd seems enthused. I just want to say, if anyone has a problem with how hot I look, or questions whether I can say intelligent things while also looking hot at the same time, whether that be someone in this debate or someone streaming on YouTube later, or some presumably like middle-aged unemployed man who like is way too obsessed with how a bunch of 20-year-olds spend their time in college, please get in touch with my lawyer and I will see you in court wearing an equally sexy and sequined pantsuit. Okay. On to why the Lecky is just the best library ever. So coming into college for the first time, as a first year, I think it takes a while to navigate the maze-like Gothic jungle that is Trinity, to configure to which spaces you not only belong, but are actively permitted in. For example, on my first day, I naively walked bright-eyed into the dining hall for lunch and nursed a pasta bowl under the beady eyes of very old men who maybe did something important enough in Trinity in 1805 to warrant an oil painting of themselves to be hung in a big drafty room where scholars get to go to chant like God Save the Queen or whatever it is. I was one of those, I was like one more architecturally extravagant, higher than thou pillar away from getting on the next bus to UCD, thinking Trinity was like just way too fancy for me. Well, ladies, take one step into the safe haven that is the Lecky, and you will feel inadequate no more. Feast your eyes on the crumbling tables placed far too close together, the leather peeled practically off. See the space filled with books that no one ever reads on stuff like geography, maybe each binder torn and each spine broken. The bleach-stained carpet, or at least I think it's bleach, the flickering lights, the lack of chargers, the disorder of the layout. Why do I have to walk a kilometer away to print something? Why do bookshelves block entrances to certain study spaces? Why can I hear the heartbeat of my too close neighbor to the left and accidentally kick the Lawpole boy across from me every time I uncross my legs? You'll be asking yourself these questions with a relieved smile spreading across your face. You'll think, this is where I belong. This must be for me. And you'll spend an unfathomable amount of time in this very space, too shy to venture farther. And also, why would you do that when your next lecture is in half an hour and you are only there to kill time because you have no friends? Any first year who has the confidence to walk all the way to the Ussher in Michaelmas term, I do not trust you. I was not you. How, I ask? It's like teenagers who don't get acne. Like how? What are you taking that the rest of us aren't? The Lecky is like everything in this world that you're supposed to hate because it's basic, which is just basically code for it being elite. Twilight, Taylor Swift's music, fan fiction. You wish you were a glamorous Ussher bitch who only drinks from the water from a holy well at the highest perch of Mount Everest that flows to Ussher 2, who writes in calligraphy exclusively with pens from Austrian green, who paid €100 for those ridiculous Chili's bottles, who somehow fits 10 books and a laptop into one tote bag. She listens to alternative indie bands you've never heard of, but you know what? She won't know all the words to All Too Well when you blast it at Prinks, and that's telling. Ussher people think they're way better than you because they have charging outlets, and like atmospheric lighting, and like a special 24-hour door, like let me bow down. But they go there to social climb and to I flirt with best boys over their books. And I know this because when I stopped being a Lecky bitch in first year, I ended up an Ussher bitch. I know this because I've pretended to be her. I also sashayed around the English books, knowing I'm on full display to every soft boy I wish to seduce in the Ussher. I've picked up interesting looking books and turned them over in my delicate but learned hands in a bemused way, slightly wrinkling my forehead. Did I read the interesting looking books, might I add? I put on way too much musty perfume to match the musty scent and leaned over so everyone around me gets a whiff. I've done my fair share of scuffing the Ussher floor with my Doc Martens. So trust me when I say you cannot trust these people. They are fake. And I disagree with Catherine. Moving on to the Berkeley. I'm sorry, I get sick in my mouth thinking about Berkeley people. They're even worse. Berkeley students think that they've discovered some secret passageway or ocean cave like they star on H2O or something. It's hilarious. They think they're alt or something, and they will definitely go into some shady form of politics or business or law, and definitely like contribute to like capitalism and the corruption of the country. They either love telling you about the Berkeley as though they're sharing secret government information about Area 51 or a cheat sheet to a class in a test in second year. It's not that deep and no one actually gives a shit. Or they etch their initials into a window seat at the top floor of the Berkeley and claim it ferociously with their beady eyes, as though anyone else gives enough of a fuck to take it from them. You can have it. You can have your Berkeley. I don't want it. As for Hamilton students, I've never been there. I honestly have never been there. I'm not even kidding. That's not a joke. Like,
You want?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so from my understanding, the Lecky is to art students as the Hamilton is to like STEM students, and I just want to propose like an alliance between me and you so we could oppose the more pretentious Berkeley and Ussher libraries. I think that's the best way to like resolve this debate.
You know what? Obviously, but the thing is, and as I will get into, the Lecky accepts all. Like, like there's no barrier when you're going to the Lecky. The Lecky doesn't like look you up and down and assess you based on what clothes you're wearing or what tote bag you're like hanging around. Everyone's fucking welcome. So if you want to survive in a post-apocalyptic world, you vote Lecky. Okay, 1 minute, cute. So like just on a slightly more serious note, I've gotten more work done in the Lecky over any other library in Trinity, and I'm being serious when I say that. Every time I go to the Ussher, I'm sucked into like this world of like beauty and aesthetic that just completely distracts me from whatever I'm actually trying to study or look at. But like the Lecky, it's like you're punishing yourself, and the more you punish yourself, the more work you'll do. I used to in secondary school do work outside in the middle of November, like with like my jumper for school off, so that I would freeze to death so that I get my maths homework done quicker. It's you punish yourself so you want to get out of there quicker, and then you get more work done. So just to sum up and to expand on what I said to Bríd, for the new post-apocalyptic world, you must save the Lecky, and particularly they don't think they're better than you, and we will 100% let you on. In rebuttal to Ellen, Lecky is far more diverse than any other library. Lecky does not discriminate. It harbors every excess wandering student without a home, and that's what you need in a post-apocalyptic world. It's just there. It just exists. And aren't we all just here, just existing in mediocrity? Stop lying to yourself. Vote Lecky. Thank you.
Thank you, Maeve. I should now call upon Bríd O'Donnell on the Hamilton.
Cool. Hi guys. I'm just gonna pour myself a drink while having to talk about the Hamilton, because you know it's the Hamilton. Like everyone's heard about it. It's a bit of an urban legend, and not for good reasons, I suppose. But I'm still going to defend it because you can defend anything in debating. Actually, no, you can't. I'm going to try to defend it. Okay, so first and foremost, please fill out the oratory returns, and also please send me a message if you want to do a floor speech. I think that's super important. Oh wait, I forgot to time myself down. Okay, so
You got 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you. Oh, my beautiful, lovely treasurer. Thank you. Anyway, so I forgot to write a speech tonight, and so I was like writing a speech literally in the last like 3 speeches that have occurred. And the reason why I forgot to write a speech tonight was I was actually having drinks and playing Among Us with the guys who work at my startup. So yeah, I work in a startup, guys. Humble little brag. Can you guess what student I am? Yeah, I'm a STEM student. I'm not even out of college yet, and I'm already employed by like an up and coming startup. And I suppose the reason why I'm mentioning this, well, twofold. One is before I actually came to this debate, I murdered everyone. Like there were 7 of us, but I murdered all of them in Among Us. Like it was so well played. Like I don't even know how I managed it, but I just demolished them. It was amazing. So I want everyone to know that. That's nothing to do with this debate. But the thing why I'm mentioning this is that, you know, I'm employed. Statistically, most STEM students are arguably more employed than art students. I can like show you the Irish Times articles and all that, and probably better paid as well. And why I'm mentioning this is that there is then correlation between the students who study in the Hamilton and the students who are better employed. So that's one reason why arguably you should go for the Hamilton, because we're just arguably better employable people. And like that is a meaningless word, but it means that we're like productive, we make things work, we're engineers, we solve problems as opposed to just debating problems. Ugh, I hate that. I say as the author of the oldest debate society in the world. Oh my god, I can't even read the the chat. There's so much there. But yeah, so that's where I'm starting this debate. That's my first point, I suppose. My second point is probably to explain where the Hamilton is, because so far I'm pretty sure none of the speakers before me have actually been into the Hamilton, which is probably why it's so brilliant. Because, you know, so few students know about. And by so few students, I mean literally any art student does not know about it. All STEM students do know about it. Our S2S mentors bring us to that, library. They show us around. We know how it works. But it's devoid of any art students. And honestly, isn't that like such a wonderful place? Sorry, I'm just trashing art students. Okay, where it is actually the top floor of the Hamilton. So I don't know if you guys have been to the Hamilton. Any fresher hasn't, probably for the best that you haven't. The Hamilton is this like weird long building which is very, very cold. So like main part of the Hamilton is like freezing cold because they keep the doors open all day. There's loads of pigeons around. That's probably the highlight. And then there's like lecture halls. And then at the very top of the building is the actual library. So two things. One is you have to walk up a shit ton of stairs to get to the library. And the other thing is that surprisingly the library is warm, which is a benefit for me. Yes. Okay. So why am I telling you all of this? Well, firstly, I don't think it's that important that the library be good that I have to defend. I think what's more important is that the library makes us do the thing that we go to do it at, which is, similarly study or maybe collect books or I don't know. I assume most people go to the library to study. I mean, I know there's some art students who go there to like flirt. That's an alien idea to me. But generally you go to the library to get something going, get an assignment done, that sort of thing. And so I suppose in my mind, it's like, shouldn't it be shitter then? Because you don't want to get comfortable. You don't want to feel like you're at home and you can spend all day doing this. You want to get your shit done. So this is why the Hamilton is so great, because it's at the top of the building. First, you have to walk up a shit ton of stairs. So you're not going to walk down and try and distract yourself with chatting to friends in the atrium or whatever. You're going to stick up there as long as you can. Secondly, there's not even a bathroom up there. You have to walk down the stairs to go to the bathroom. So you're going to be holding in your bladder for as long as you can, trying to study as much as you can for the Hamilton. Yeah, sure, why not?
Why on earth would we save something that doesn't have a bathroom for a post-apocalyptic world? I would like to live in a world with a bathroom. I'm not sure if that's just me, but I think that's pretty commonly held.
I hate to say this, but I really hope that when we're deciding what to save, we save actual bathrooms and not the college bathrooms that are connected to like libraries. If we're doing saving things for the world, let's put aside student libraries and focus on the really important stuff like toilets. And obviously STEM students would do that. We wouldn't prioritize a library over toilets. Let's have separate toilets that actually, serve their purpose. Anyway, and not have loads of tourists in them, obviously. That's such an easy fucking at any of the arts block stuff. So some of the attacks at the arts block is that firstly, you guys are always packed. Like I've been to each library, and every time I'm both intimidated and confused. Oh Christ, 1 minute. Yeah, so like the Ussher, Ellen was talking about how it's like really gorgeous and everything like that. In a post-apocalyptic world, I fully believe it'll be considered a place of worship. I also think that because it's 24 hours, it's like really, really off-putting because you shouldn't be in the library for 24 hours. That's not healthy. I've been in labs for 24 hours and that's been the worst experience of my life. And the only reason I had to be there was because there was no other way to, I had to access those labs to do the assignment. But we shouldn't be encouraging students to spend 24 hours in a place. And honestly, that's just really bad for your mental health. Secondly, with the Berkeley, it actually looks like a nuclear bunker. I don't know if that's a plus or negative. But I will say is that it's again always busy. I don't know why it's so busy. It's so frustrating trying to go there and find things. Similarly with Lecky, lots of the arguments that Maeve made are similar to arguments I kind of have about the Hamilton, but for STEM students. And I will say STEM students are a decent portion of the population. I know the HIS is dominated by art students, but don't forget that STEM students exist and arguably are more important due just to, employability. I'm a young professional. Always have to throw that in for his speech. But here's the thing that I'm going to say, which I was talking about the packness. I'm going to go on, Ellen. I'm the author, I can do this. Is that there's a level of savagery when it comes to finding spots in libraries. You don't find that with the Hamilton because people go in and people go out. You don't stay in a Hamilton just to stay and chat to people. You do your shit and then you leave. So it's actually quite it's reasonably spacious and you actually get your shit done and there's plenty of spaces around. And I'm not gonna lie, I think that's more important. Like, I think in a post-apocalyptic world, we don't need a savagery of people fighting over spaces, of like the kind of like territorialness of you know, trying to protect your zone and everything like that. What we need is just a place where, you know, you have peace and you don't have to worry about being in a library. And again, guys, why do you want to be in a library so much? Art students are so weird. Do you guys like reading? Anyway, that's my speech. STEM students rule. There we go. Oh, and please send me any, if you want to do a floor speech, send it on.
Woo.
Thanks, Bríd. I'll now call upon Ailbhe Noonan on the Ussher.
Woo.
Right. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna set up my timer. Right. Okay. I want to read you a story before I get into anything else. Once upon a time, a small fresher who really just wanted to find a place to study in this strange and unknown land stumbled across a very odd-looking building. She had no idea where to go and found herself suddenly stuck in this complex, sprawling block that spread out beneath her and above her, and she felt the world caving in on her. Alone in the wild, dark maze that loomed over her, with no comfort in sight, she wandered through the door and down the long, dark staircase. It seemed to grow even longer as she descended into what seemed like the bowels of hell. Being alone and forgotten, and clutching her bag strapped to her shoulder, she looked for a way out. Any way out at all. She kept going. And what did she see suddenly? A staircase at the back of the wall, and not the mythical staircase where you have to hold the object of the history and law and maybe politics students and spin around 12 times and recite the ancient incantation. I'll get to that in a second. I mean, a comforting staircase, slightly hidden perhaps, at the back of the wall, seemingly where nothing would be. Passing this strange blob of the seating area with kind of people sprawled across it, she got up the stairs. And where did she find? The Ussher. All that is to say, firstly, the Ussher is the most literary and gothic vibe of all the libraries. And if you're not fond of gothic libraries, I mean, there's nothing I can do for you. Like, you study at Trinity, how can you not be fond of gothic libraries? Or gothic novels, in the words of one of my TAs. Which means it's simultaneously absolutely terrifying and very, very cozy. It's very sumptuous in its decoration. I mean, why would you not want to study somewhere where you feel like you're in the lap of luxury? You are a Trinity student. You are the elite. Why would you not study somewhere that has the same status as you? Or at least makes you feel like you have the same status because, you know, we're in the modern day. The desks are spacious. The floor is sumptuous. The red carpeting underneath your feet, the feeling of that is unmatched by anything else. And the bookshelves are accessible, which is great, even if you do have to go around a little bit. In terms of studying anywhere else, firstly, it's impossible to find the Berkeley unless one of the mythical students who study there grant you access. You basically have to wander through the library. You walk past the staircase countless times and you don't even notice until suddenly it appears to you there one day because you happen to be holding the right object at the right time where the sun came up and crossed the moon at the equinox. And then, not only do you have to do that, you have to actually go around, recite the incantation. Recite the incantation that's been given to you and blessed by you. Spin in a circle 12 times, do whatever else, draw the symbol, and then you can finally go up the stairs. How is that reasonable for a library when I just want to sit and study and write an essay? What is the point? What is the purpose? I don't know. Someone tell me. So unless you're a history student or a law student or studying one of those things, you're probably not going to use the Berkeley because realistically, how do you find it? And once you're there, I mean, how do you get back? It doesn't make sense. And I mean, when you're there anyway, you're probably going to freeze because I've heard it's particularly cold. And I wouldn't be fond of sitting somewhere where not only do I have to go on a mythical quest to find it, the life Beowulf would be envious of, I freeze my ass off when I'm sitting there. What is the point? Again, the Ussher is cozy and warm, and it's got the right vibe, if I'm using the correct terminology. In terms of the Lecky, I mean, it's basically a glorified highway. I'm sorry. It's a crusty old building sitting in the arts block, doing basically nothing. I mean, who actually studies there? The desks are falling apart. There's, like, as you know, Maeve eloquently described in her speech, the desks are falling apart. There's no plugs. How is that practical? That's even less practical than the mythical library that you can't even find. So not only is it a glorified hallway that you walk through with disdain, looking at the poor students who are sitting and suffering in silence there, or alternatively, not actually doing anything, staring out, watching the Roomba vacuum, one or the other. You cross through that, you come to the central pathway, and since the Berkeley's off limits, as I've already explained, where do you go? The Lecky, or the Ussher, because that's where you find it. Sorry, lost my train of thought. That's where you find it. Not only is it easily accessible, in spite of what it looks like, the English books are there. That's really convenient. They've got English, they've got film, they've got the languages, which is basically most of the art students, because I'm going to say most of the population of that kind of area would be art students, and you do get the occasional STEM student wandering in. I have seen someone studying physics, astrophysics, I think. It was very weird while I was trying to write an essay. And then you get the most amazing view, the most amazing look out onto the green while you're studying. They keep you going. I mean, it's basically like looking out the windows of a Gothic church. Who doesn't want to look out the windows of a Gothic church, look down on the earth and feel like you're reigning over everyone? While sitting in sumptuous red spaces with gorgeous red carpeting. Why would you not? Who doesn't want to do that? I'll take a PO. I know if anyone has one because I'm kind of rambling on, but you get my point, I'm sure.
I have one. I win. Yeah, just on the issue of the beautiful.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
No, still can't hear you. I guess that wasn't to be. I suppose that's the message from above. Not only is the library accessible, the people who study in the library are accessible. Okay. Sorry about the shade. Do not get distracted by the Quidditch stream. Nope. I mean, sometimes it's fun to watch people, but like, really, you're looking down on them, knowing that you're actually getting productive stuff done, while they're kind of running around on the cricket pitch, which is not a cricket pitch, which actually is a cricket pitch, because they don't actually know what the cricket pitch does. And you feel great, because I don't know about you guys, but when I'm studying, I like to be comfortable. I like to feel like it's a place that I can call my home, that I can wander the shelves like the typical Gothic heroine that I aspire to be because I'm a Trinity student. Pluck a book out, the exact book I need perhaps, wander through, and have some fun. So in conclusion, the Berkeley is inaccessible, the Lecky is a crusty hallway, no one knows what the Hamilton is except Bríd apparently. Why would you not go with the Ussher?
Woo!
Thank you, Ailbhe. I now call upon Julie.
And again, if anyone has any floor speeches about any library on Trinity campus that they'd like to speak on, please just send me a message over the chat. Again, it's only 4 minutes, and it can literally be you just ranting or tearing into us for terrible, terrible library choices, or even just tearing into us for having a debate on a library, which honestly, in retrospect, seems really, really, really nerdy. Anyway.
Can people hear me? Yeah? Am I audible? Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Ladies and gentlemen of the College Historical Society, ladies and gentlemen, friends. Bríd is now excluded from the last one because she spoke for 8.5 minutes and ignored my timekeeping. Right, I'm timekeeping myself now because fuck it. I am delighted to be in our virtual debating chamber tonight, aka at my own desk, in defense of the Berkeley Library. Look, honestly, the only people who call it Berkeley are purists, lizard people, and philosophy students, and I'm not sure there's a difference between those three things. Great look, a treasurer can't do maths. I, however, I'm a one-time TSM history student, and it is as a student of history that I strongly propose that Berkeley, and more specifically the second floor of that brutal 1960s concrete that we all know and love, is simply the best library that Trinity has to offer. I'm not going to spend my speech dissing the other libraries. I'm just going to talk about the merits of the Berkeley Library. Catherine has made the strong case for the aesthetic power of Berkeley, and I'm certainly not going to disagree, nor indeed with her point about the Ussher being the most stressful place in Trinity. The pigeons of the Berkeley I will be coming back to, however. So why is my history student status relevant to the Berkeley? Well, this is because the second floor of the Berkeley, or Berk 2 as it is colloquially known, is where the history books are. It's where I've written more essays than I can count about popes, kings, queens, rebels, and crusaders. It's where I have cried more times over their essays than any other place in college. It's the concrete box in all of its poorly lit glory that I blame for my reading glasses, and it is, above all, the place where I made most of my friends. Maeve, you're queen and I love you, but I'm about to defend the very Berkeley people that you were dissing. So, as a history student, the Berkeley is a fundamentally social place. It may be less noisy than the Lecky, less glamorous than the Ussher, and less grim than the Hamilton. Yes, I'm an art student. Yes, I have been to the Hamilton. Yes, it is grim. But if it's essay season and you should be doing essay work, you can pretty much guarantee that your whole course is going to be there and you're going to get absolutely nothing done. Bríd, I fundamentally disagree with your thesis that libraries are for studying. Yes, you are a nerd. Libraries are a place to make friends. Don't know what that says about me. So let me give you a few examples. During the first essay season of my junior fresh year, I was trying to work in the Berkeley. I was still bright-eyed and hopeful. Literally, it would take another year of reading in that Berkeley lighting before I needed glasses. And I genuinely believed that I might get an essay written in Berk 2. That's not exactly what happened. On this occasion, an acquaintance from my course came over, sat on my desk, leaned far too close into my personal space, and just whispered the word moist. Suffice to say, I was horrified, and we've been friends ever since. That's how it goes in Berkeley. At the times when you should be working, your friends are there. They're distracting you, they're annoying you, they're dragging you to the pav, kicking and screaming, of course. I once came back to the Berkeley after an expedition to the pav, thinking I would get some more work done after being to the pub. Naive, I know. At which point I bumped into another course mate and they gave me some sage advice that I have carried with me to this day. Julie, you're half pissed, go the fuck home.
UI?
Library, all of its concrete grimness, is a place of friendship. And it's not just for the history crowd. Yeah, what's your POI, Bríd?
Yeah, my POI is maybe the Ussher shouldn't be open 24 hours so you end up with a load of people who are half pissed trying to study.
I'm not defending the Ussher. Say what you like, it's allowed.
Sorry, fucking the
Berkeley.
other ones as well.
Yeah, so right, the Berkeley Library, for all its concrete grimness, is fundamentally a place of friendship, even if that does mean coming back from the pav and trying to study again. And it's not just for the history crowd. Back in 2018, my STEM student sister tucked her bat wings away and crawled out of the Hamilton to come study in the Berkeley for a change of scenery. Even in that short time, she made 3 lifelong friends who happened also to enchant the rest of Trinity, as Catherine mentioned. The 3 pigeons who got into the Berkeley for the day. These pigeons, now the stuff of legend, flocked and creating absolute chaos. Some students fled in terror, while the hardier amongst us witnessed staff brandishing nets, chasing the pigeons that were busy causing a sometimes literal shitstorm. To this day, it's unclear how the pigeons made it inside, but the message from the library itself was clear. The Berkeley is a library for all, from the arts to the sciences to the avian invaders, though we may have felt differently if it had been the arts block seagulls instead of the pigeons. It's a place where you can always bounce an idea off, where you can take phone calls on the stairs without getting caught by the library staff. It's a place where you'll find a seat and a socket as late as 11 a.m. during exam season, instead of pitching an overnight tent outside the Ussher like some sad parody of queuing for a concert to meet your favorite artist. It may not have the pitch or indeed the Quidditch team, but it has a kind of organic, personable charm. If you ask me, it's the very sparseness of the concrete, the complete lack of natural light, and the drifting ghosts of students hoping to find Paul Mescal hiding under a desk that simply allow the real human warmth and compassion of the place to shine through. Say what you want about the misery of Conal Waldron Ellen, but I, for one, could never be miserable looking at him in all of his GAA glory, especially not in the Berkeley. My love of the Berkeley, however, isn't all about friends and laughs and fun, nor even about Paul Mescal. It's time to get serious. It's time to talk about power and control. It's time to talk about window seats. On the second floor of the Berkeley, there are only 4 seats in the windows. It's sometimes said that they are a myth, that there are no windows in Berk at all, and the sun has never touched those stones. I can confirm, however, that not only do they exist, but they are a very special place. Let me take you on a journey to that promised land. The windows on Burke 2 are hidden far in a corner, behind the bookshelves and away from everybody else. They're sequestered somewhere in an alcove. They are my favorite spot anywhere on any library on Trinity campus for one all-important reason. They give you complete control of the temperature. Sitting in any other seat in Berkeley, and people have commented on this before, chances are you're going to end up shivering or sweating, glasses fogging up or wishing you could wrap yourself in a blanket. The temperature is very rarely just right, and most exam seasons are characterized either by frozen extremities or dehydration headaches from the heat. This may seem like an argument against the Berkeley Library. I know Ellen made use of it in her speech, but bear with me. If you're sitting in a window seat in the Berkeley, you get to choose whether or not to inflict these conditions upon your fellow students. If you open the window, they freeze. If you keep it closed, they die. They boil. Live or die or flee. If you get to that window seat, it's all on you. In the Berkeley window seats, I am not just the master of my fate, I am the master of all. Yes, Ellen, I'll take your POI now.
So firstly, I was right.
Wait, sorry. Who are you taking? Whose POI are you taking, Jude?
Who often, actually, hang on. I'm actually over 6 minutes, so I'm not taking any, sorry.
Damn it. I'm going to destroy you.
Basically everything about Berkeley makes it the best library in Trinity College. Where else could you find such brutalist concrete serenity, packed with that perfect mixture of friendship, human spirit, and the unparalleled opportunity to impose your unbending totalitarian will upon others? Even on the days I wasn't in the and there were many, the coordinated study breaks with friends and the essays that I did eventually get around to writing went a long way towards making my time in this college as worthwhile as it has been. I will defend the Berkeley Library, my inevitable spectacular death in a hail of bullets when the apocalypse eventually comes. But in all seriousness, much as we're all pulling together to get through this pandemic, I would do pretty much anything to study in a college library, any college library, and enjoy that camaraderie and procrastination. I'm in my final year. It's not likely that I'm going to get any of that back. So you have more time left in this college than I, not to be too sappy, but when things do eventually get back to normal, enjoy every minute in your library of choice, even if I disagree with it, even if it's not the Berkeley. Thanks for listening, guys.
Woo!
Woo!
Thanks, Julie. I'm not sure exactly what I'm supposed to do now, but I'll just pass it back to you, Bríd.
Yeah, completely apologize for forgetting that we have one floor speech tonight, which is very exciting. Because to be honest, I mean, we all wanted to hear from her this evening. Laura Egan will be speaking on the Lecky this evening. But also maybe so sprinkle in some other libraries. But yeah, Laura Egan will be speaking, will be having a floor speech. If anyone else wants to speak, please just message me. Again, I assume everyone has really strong opinions on the libraries. Probably not, to be honest. But whatever, just message me. Laura Egan?
Okay. So look, as the official source on the answers of the libraries, I think we need to clarify why the Lecky is just definitively the right choice in this debate. I mean, if you're not going to count the Hist Library, which I've already discussed why I think you should, but if you're not going to go there, it has to be the Lecky. I know a lot of people have been complaining about it being a hallway and there's too much stuff going on and everyone's chatting and no one will be quiet. And that is why I love it. I cannot study in silence. It is off-putting and I don't get anything done. Anytime I'm in the in the Ussher, I can't get anything done because it is too silent and I'm busy looking around trying to figure out why it is too quiet. It just feels of desperation when I end up having to do an essay there. It's that feeling of, oh no, I have left it too late. I'm now stuck in this library as opposed to anywhere else writing this essay. And I never want to leave it this late again because I never want to have to come to this library again. It is, I think someone else mentioned it earlier, it is one of the most stressful places to try getting anything done. And I have no desire to go back there. Then with the Berkeley, I agree with whoever said it is impossible to find things there. I have multiple times looked around Berkeley trying to find books for law back when I did that in first year. And I have never once found the book I'm looking for. I generally end up wandering around the different shelves, kind of hoping that I'll find something. Maybe there'll be a signpost somewhere, but there never is. I never do. And eventually I give up, looking sad, just walking away from the bookshelves, hoping no one's judging me for it, but they definitely are because it's the Berkeley. So then I think maybe you should try different floors of the Berkeley. I still don't understand the numbering system there. I've definitely ended up on the wrong floor before. And one of the few times I have ended up studying in the Berkeley was just around exam season when there were no seats anywhere and I ended up sitting at a window seat. No, not a seat at the window. I mean, sitting beside the window on the staircase because there was a plug socket there and nowhere else in the PLQ. And let me tell you, that is a grim state you don't want to go back into. But the Lecky, most of the time there'll be a seat somewhere. It might not have a plug socket, but you can manage without one if you have to. It's an extra incentive to type super fast so you get your essay finished before your laptop dies, like some kind of extreme sport. So yes, I do think the Lecky is the place to be. And as well, I know it's been pointed out in this debate, but the library is a place to make friends. It is definitely somewhere where you can procrastinate for extended periods of time should you want to. Especially when you have that awkward 1 hour between lectures when you're in first year and you don't really know what to do with it because you're not going to hike all of campus to hike straight back. The Lecky is somewhere where you can sit down, open up your laptop to avoid other people, but not actually get anything done and just kind of flick through different websites, kind of hoping that it looks like you're studying to anyone passing by, but you're definitely not because you're not even sure what Stella is yet. And you just continue on doing that, hoping that at some stage will become clear. And then maybe you look for a book in the Lecky. You probably don't. Because let's be fair, if you're trying to get a course book in a course with like 200 or 300 people, you're never getting it. You can give up now. You will never find it, and it will always be out of stock somehow. And for some reason, there will only be one copy of it in the library in the first place. So in that case, I think you're better off, if you're just going to be looking up stuff online anyway, it may as well be the Lecky. You're not going to be using any of the books. So sit yourself down, find a nice space, and you can probably find the same space multiple days if it suits you, because very few people want to be in the Lecky in the first place. So it gets you into a nice routine. You can find the exact combination of sunlight and plug socket that you like in a nice little alcove away from whoever else. Settle down and get yourself into your routine. Whether or not that routine happens to be productive, that part's up to you. And I just think the Lecky is the place to be if you're going to have to go for one of the on-campus libraries. That's obviously not the HIST for some strange reason. Right, I think that is pretty much all I have to say, and I think my time is kind of up, so I will leave it there.
Woo!
Woo!
We actually also have one final floor speech from Anya Kari, who will be arguing against all the libraries. So I cannot wait. Anya?
Yeah, so I'm actually against every single library in Trinity, like literally every single one. I think as a HISPOL student, I'm actually like somewhat required to like the library, but I don't, and I'm going to tell you why. So like the Ussher is just so many stairs. That's a point no one's brought up. What is up with the amount of stairs? You need a nap after going up, like, well, I need a nap even after going up the Berkeley stairs, but like there's just way too many stairs. And then I feel kind of judged getting the lift when I'm going to like the second floor. So like, I just can't do that. There's also like too many people doing actual work, which I don't want to see you doing like your calculus while I'm like procrastinating on my essay. Like I just don't want to see it, and I just don't vibe with that. The Berkeley, controversial opinion, I actually think it's like a bit more of a dark academia aesthetic than the Ussher, because like I don't know if you know, like the back corner of the second floor, I think it's like number like seat 10 and 11. Okay, Ellen, I see you coming for me, don't. Like very far corner, very vibey. But again, like you said, like employable law students, like just being there just like ruins the whole thing for everyone. Hamilton, like I'm not even really gonna like bring that up because like it's the Hamilton. There's just no need. Like I'm still not entirely convinced it exists. I'm sure most of the buildings like outside anyway, so I don't even know if it counts as a library. The Lecky had a purpose last year when you could like access it through the arts building, but now I just don't see the point if you have to go through the Berkeley to get there. But there's one reason, even if you don't buy any of these reasons, there's one reason why every single library in Trinity is now terrible, even if it wasn't last year, and that is the library booking system. So like the unfortunate reality that is the new library booking system. So like you get there, you've booked like seat 12, that's fine. You go in, you look for seat 12, that takes you about 10 minutes in itself. You usually have to like end up searching for your email for another 10 minutes. It's like a whole ordeal. Then when you finally find your seat, someone's sitting in it, and like, do you ask them to get out? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If you're me anyway, I just leave. I go home, because if I go and steal another available seat, then what if that person who's booked that seat comes along and I'm sitting in their seat, then they feel too awkward to tell me, and then if someone else, they steal someone else's seat, and then it's just this like whole vicious cycle that just like really stresses me out as like an awkward person. So don't encourage that vicious cycle and just don't go to the library. So like, I just don't think there's any defendable library in Trinity under the new booking system. So I vote just don't go to the library at all. Just don't do it. It's not worth passing your MCQ. Don't do it. Like I understand some of you might say like, oh, like failing your degree is like more stressful than asking someone to get out of your seat. But like, I personally disagree. So that's just me. Yeah, so I think every single person in this debate except me is wrong. But yeah, thanks.
Woo!
So I believe that's all the speakers for this evening. Ellen, if you would like to do your job as chair, I believe the next part is the actual poll for which library is the best.
I'll do so. Thanks, Bríd. I will now put the question to the House. On the motion, this House disagrees with your choice of library. You may now vote in the poll on screen.
It's disappointing that there's absolutely no option for just no library whatsoever. You have to pick one library.
Can I also say that this debate was not about which is the superior library. It's about which one we should save. And I feel like, don't know, wording, don't know.
So sorry that we did not, strictly talk about. I feel like the best one should be the one that's saved.
But I feel like there's a difference between superiority and, worth.
Yeah, that's why Berkeley is, Ellen.
Berkeley's going to survive anyway because it's a nuclear bunker, so may as well.
But that is true. If we completely discount the Berkeley, so the Berkeley is disqualified by that logic. Really disqualified the Berkeley.
We're just waiting on 3 more people to vote. Also, I can't vote in this, which is really upsetting me.
Lecky.
Hamilton.
You don't vote Lecky.
I bet there's like a portion of STEM students in our audience to see the silent majority.
Ellen, I feel like the Ussher gang needs to stick together.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Ussher gang has been diminished by me. Okay, I'm gonna give it another 20 seconds, and then I'm gonna close the poll.
There's too much writing on this.
I'm feeling hot. It's like I'm in the Berkeley right now.
Right.
Close the windows and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it.
Here's our final tally.
Oh my fucking god.
How did the Lecky win?
Okay, guys.
This is the most upsetting thing.
It's all based on this dress, isn't it, guys? I knew it.
So we'll see the floor back to the chair, who
iconic. So proud of that. Sorry.
Thanks, Bríd. Is that my cue?
Yes, that's your cue. It's very difficult to do this over Zoom. You should be a lot more straightforward.
Well, thanks very much, and thanks for the invitation to take part in this. I don't know where to start really, because I did have a few notes, but I was just, to use a cliche, I was on a bit of a roller coaster of emotions there with all those passionate speeches about the library. I didn't know anyone could have such passion about a library, but it's good to know that there is that there. I'm kind of coming from two different aspects as a staff member in the library. I'm feeling a bit defensive about the manuscripts department because it wasn't mentioned. So I should just give a plug to that. So if you go to the Berkeley or the Lecky or the Hamilton or the Ussher, you should know that you're basically in the midst of secondary sources. If you want to come to the primary sources, you come to the manuscripts department, and that should be your ultimate goal, I think, anyway. But apart from that, I have to say, listening to all of you took me on a bit of a trip down memory lane to when I was an undergrad in the dying days of the 20th century. And I can't believe it actually was last century that I was. But so I am quite biased in terms of the library. Mine was, and I have to say that I voted. I'm not sure if I was allowed to vote, but I did. And it was the Berkeley. And yes, and if I would have been allowed, I would have gone even further into specifics and followed Julie's pitch for the second floor, because that's where I spent most of my time. I'd also have to agree with her that yes, the library, you know, a huge amount of that is the social aspect. It's where you kind of sat there, you studied, you pretended to study, you met your friends, you went, usually it was, you were looking forward to going for coffee in the Arts Block cafe. We drank out of styrofoam cups back then, but that's probably the only difference. It wasn't called a perch either, but it looks exactly the same. Yes, I was a bit, as I said, getting a bit defensive, I suppose, about the Berkeley being called, you know, ugly and things like that. I don't know how you could call the Ussher beautiful. It's a lot of things, but I don't know if it's beautiful. The Lecky, I'm really surprised that it came top, because in my day, it was called Club Lecky. It was where best students went to hang out. And I don't know, does best still exist, or is it called something else? Business, economics, social science? Yes, okay.
Because,
best
it's still
student,
kicking about somehow.
Oh, great. No, it was one of those kind of mythical courses, and nobody really knew what people were doing. But they always knew somebody who did best. And they usually wore Ralph Lauren shirts that were turned up at the collar, and Dubarry boat shoes. I don't know if that's the same anymore. I haven't really kind of studied the anthropology.
Spiritually do. Like, they don't physically, but they spiritually do.
Okay, good to know. The Berkeley was, as I say, the second floor was where I used to spend my days, and I did get a lot of stuff done, but I'm glad that I didn't have the internet. Actually, we didn't quite have cuneiform tablets, but we had pencil and paper, and hardly anybody had laptops or mobile phones. It was only people with notions who had mobile phones at that point, because there was nobody really to talk to. So I think everybody was actually calling their mothers when they were on the phone, asking what was for dinner. I think that, you know, all these perceptions of the library are really interesting to hear. I know that when I was an undergraduate, I used to think that the perception of college and of the librarians was that we were just kind of a herd of students, you know, who had to be let in. We were kind of an inconvenience. We had to trudge through the library. We sat down, we read the books, we put them back, and then we left, and then we had to be cleaned up afterwards, you know. But I think it's kind of gone the opposite way at the moment. Everything is student-centered, which is great, but it's all about the students. It's what do they want? What do they need? That's all I hear about in meetings. Again, it's great. Maybe it's gone a bit too far. It's like if you get tired walking from the Berkeley to the Ussher, here's purple seat that you can sit down on. We didn't have any of that. We couldn't sit down halfway between the Berkeley and the Ussher. Well, the Ussher didn't exist. I think it was only built after I left. But yeah, I mean, I just say as well, I'm not actually a librarian. I'm not here like as a spy or anything like that, but I'm an archivist, and so I don't feel the same affinity maybe with kind of libraries. I don't know how to use Stella. Well, I do know how to use Stella, but I don't really understand why it tells you that something exists, but it doesn't exist in the library. I don't think anybody knows why, but it's just one of those things. So go classic and you'll be fine. You can't be disappointed. What else? Too many stairs. I have a lot of notes written, a lot of what people were saying. Oh, in relation to the pronunciation of the Berkeley. I do say Berkeley, but it's more because if you say Berkeley, it sounds like it's an adjective, and it's like Burke-like, Edmund Burke-like. So if something is very Berkeley, it's, you know, it's very philosophical, or maybe a little, you know, a bit pretentious. But I mean, I don't think there should be any kind of penalty for how you pronounce it. I don't see how you could say that any other library other than the old library, the long room, is the most beautiful library, because anybody who's ever been in there couldn't fail to see that it is absolutely beautiful. And again, I'm biased because I work beside it and work, yeah, I walk through it every day, and I have to say I don't ever get tired of looking at and feeling lucky that I work there. And I know a lot of you, or some of you anyway, worked with me on the curation of the old library exhibition, and I really enjoyed that. Yeah, I think that's about it. But I just have to say that I really enjoyed hearing everybody's comments and come to the manuscripts. So thanks very much.
Woo. Woo.
I just want to thank our chair this evening for what was a really wonderful chair's address, and also for just being a wonderful, like, I'll say ally, but just a wonderful friend to the society. The work you put into the His 250 expedition was just excellent, and I think it was when I brought my mom in to see it, which was just before the lockdown happened. I think she finally was like impressed with the society, and you know, I'm not going to say that if I didn't have my mom's approval, I wouldn't be auditor here today, but I'm pretty sure it helped in convincing my mom that taking a year out was a worthy thing to do. But 100%, the His 250 expedition was an amazing thing to see. And for any of those who didn't see it, you can see a lot of it online now. I think I posted it into the chat, but it's a really wonderful work. And as she so rightly put it, the long room is one of the most like beautiful rooms in Ireland. And the fact that it actually wasn't mentioned, I think, was a choice made by all the speakers, because if you were to even acknowledge the existence of the long room at the debate this evening, all of our choices, all of our favorite libraries would suddenly become nil, because obviously it's the superior library. Like it's so beautiful. So yeah, thank you for all the amazing work you've done, and thank you so much for chairing this evening.
Thanks very much. And sorry, Bríd, could I just jump in really quickly if this isn't allowed? Just if there's any first years here, obviously everybody is welcome, but particularly to, you know, people who are just starting out, not to be put off by, you know, the idea of coming into the library, and everybody is there to help. I was just going to say as well, sometimes you can be quite intimidated, but genuinely any of my colleagues in the library all they really want to do is help and make sure that everybody gets to see what they want to see.
100%. I think, as you rightly pointed out, like the other libraries or secondary sources, and then when you actually go to the archives and you actually see the long room and everything like that, that is 100% the primary source. And it's actually really, it is shockingly meaningful to be in there. As someone who's only been in there once or twice, it's really nice. But yeah, I think now I will shamelessly plug the rest of the HIST events for the upcoming week. I do this every week. You guys better get used to it. And then after this debate, I suppose we'll keep the Zoom chat going and we can all discuss the motion like we would over wine and cheese in our post-debate reception. But yeah, first and foremost, our upcoming events. Next week, we have our Rainbow Week debate, which is This House Regrets Straight People at Gay Bars, which will also kind of be a broader discussion on the presence of non-LGBTQ plus people in LGBTQ plus spaces. It's going to be a really interesting debate. Please come along if you enjoyed this evening's debate. We also obviously have many other events that you can get involved in. We have novice training every Monday night at 6:30. So if you're a fresher, or even if you're like a post-grad who just wants to develop their argumentative skills, their public speaking skills, definitely get involved. It's a really good way to develop a hobby, but also to meet new people, because after every novice training, they have a round of Among Us. And of course, I'm mentioning Among Us twice now in one night. I'm obsessed. I have a problem. Save me. But yeah, also, if you are kind of a novice speaker in debating, feel free to check out our Freshers Masters. While the speaker registration has, I think, reached past its deadline, if you're interested in judging the Freshers Masters, that is something that's happening, I believe, this Sunday. And it's a number of different rounds. So if you can make one round, you can judge. And actually 100% I recommend judging a debate, because it really actually helps you in understanding what you need to do as a speaker to, you know, prove your arguments and to present your case correctly. So definitely, if you're interested in getting involved in competitive debating, again, contact with anyone on our DC team. That's Jack Williams or Daniela or Seb or Hannah. There we go. So any of them, they'll be happy to talk you through it. They also run novice training. On top of that, again, I cannot recommend judging enough, because it really does help you understand, you know, how people debate and the best ways to persuade people. So if you're interested in judging, 100% I'd recommend judging Leinster Schools. So the HIST does schools outreach. So we organize a competition, and it's with school children from transition year to 6th year. And we need judges for that. So if you're interested in developing your judging skills, or even just helping out some kids, giving them some feedback, you know, that sort of thing, get in contact with Laura Egan. She's our librarian. Don't ask us why our librarian is also the person who runs our schools outreach. It's just how the HIST ended up doing. But yeah, if you're interested in that, please get in contact with her. And then finally, or two final things I'd like to plug. The HIST currently has a survey form going around, just asking for feedback for how we're doing this year. This year is obviously a kind of weird year where we're doing all our events online. So we want to hear from our members and see how we're doing. Let me just post the form into the chat. That's like, you know, please fill it out. And if you do fill it out, then you're in the chance to win a €25 Just Eat voucher. So it's pretty good chance that you could win it. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you guys how you think of running our online events and how we can improve. This is all new to all of us. My bad. And then finally, also please donate to our Movember campaign. Again, we're fundraising for men's health, you know, to prevent men's suicide, but also for like prostate cancer, and there's just a wide range of really good causes that we're fundraising for. We're also fundraising and we're competing against other societies, and currently we're doing actually a pretty good job, but we still need your donations to keep up with all the other societies. I'm a particularly competitive person, so please do donate. And I promise I will get my 15 kilometers in this week. I've learned my lesson. But yeah, without further ado, I'll secede back to the chair, who will adjourn the meeting.
I think this is what I'm supposed to say. I call this house adjourned.
Yeah.
Yay.
So thank you again so much to our wonderful speakers and to the chair, especially this evening. It's been a wonderful debate, and we'll keep the Zoom chat going. So if people want to have discussions about like particular things about the library or any advice they have for any of the freshers on the call, feel free to do that. I actually need to go to the bathroom, but literally everyone can unmute themselves and start chatting away. But thank you again to all the amazing speakers this evening, and again especially for that really good chair's address. I cannot believe you favored the Berkeley, but I think most
Lecky won overall.
Yeah, the Lecky did win overall, but
Lecky
most importantly though, if we had actually factored in the long room and the actual archives department into this debate, I'm pretty sure the archives department would have won. They just do their role in just society in general is far more important than any of the student libraries. But yeah, thank you again for everyone who attended, and I'm going to run to the bathroom, but please feel free to discuss among yourselves.
I think someone needs to stop recording.
Oh, I think Bríd needs. Oh no, can I stop recording? No, I think it has to be Bríd.
Sorry.